Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 531. Today we're going to take a look at Via Nebula. This is a new game from Space Cowboys being brought over by Asmodee. It's designed by Martin Wallace, who has done several games throughout the last decade or so. Steam, Brass, Age of Industry, all kinds of good stuff like that. This is sort of a very light Brass/Steam game, but it has a kind of a very different sort of magical type of theme. Let's just jump right into how the actual mechanics of the game work, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts at the end. Okay, here's just about everything that you get in the game. You can see here is a main player board. Now this is double-sided, so you can have different sort of routes and things that you can play with here. The object of the game is to put out your own buildings out onto the board here and to fulfill these different contract cards. You can see there's a display of 4 of these at the top. You can see these are the different goods that are required, and then you get a different amount of points. So this one might be variable based on the condition of the card. Now each player will also receive a couple of these hidden ones, and so these are just like the other cards. They're just not for public display, so only you can actually score these. And you can see again the number of goods and the number of points the card will give you. Now on the board you can see a couple of different things. You've got areas here where you can start construction of buildings. You can see these sort of ruins here, and then these tokens are seated throughout the board randomly, and you can see this will generate 4 wheat and then give 2 points to the person that triggers this. And we also will have some goods already on the board. So as we randomly deal these out, well, some of these you can see they have 5 of a certain good on them, but no points. Now we will take one of these sort of starter tiles out. In this example, the pigs were not part of the starter, so there won't be quite as many pigs as there are other things out here. So once you do that, then you'll seed those little starter spots there with the different goods. Here's some bricks. And then players are going to sort of create routes through these different cloudy, foggy areas here. And players will place these sort of meadow tokens in different spots. I'll explain how that happens, but you're going to start to create networks between some building sites and also some sites where you have goods generated to, again, fulfill these contracts. Now players will get a little player board in their colors. You see we've got blue and white here, and these are actually double-sided. So you can see this is here is the side for the 3 and the 4-player game. And then on the 2-player game, you can see you use an extra worker, and as opposed to the 2 workers on the 3 and 4-player game, and it's sort of a different size of hex. But let's go ahead and take a look what this board is telling us, because this tells us exactly how our turn is going to work. So on your turn, you get 2 actions, and that's what those little clocks mean throughout the game. And here is the list of actions that you can do. So you can put out workers, you can build buildings, you can create more sort of safe passage for the goods with these tiles here, and then you can also fulfill contracts and things. So let's just kind of walk through what each of these actions does. You keep playing until somebody puts out their last building. Now each player has different colored and also different shaped wooden buildings. Once somebody puts out the last building, that will trigger the end of the game. Everybody will get another turn, and then you'll total up your points. So the first action you can do here is actually put one of your workers out onto the board. And when you do that, you'll take your worker, you'll put it out in one of these tokens, whichever you like, put the worker there, and then you will take this token. This token will be worth 2 points at the end of the game, and then you'll grab whatever resource is depicted, so in this case 4 stone, and then go ahead and put those in that spot there. Now that worker is locked there until the stone via transportation is moved off of here. Once there are no stones left, then you can get this worker back, and then he's available to use on another site. Now the next thing you can do is start a building, and you can see you have these sort of half hexes here, so that you simply will take one of these and then you will put them on one of these construction sites. So let's, for random purposes, we'll just put that right there. And so another player could come along and actually kind of share this site with you like that. So both of you will be trying to collect goods from these surrounding areas to add to your buildings, which again will fulfill the contracts. But that's one action, just to put one of those out. So your turns are going to be very snappy. You simply put a worker out, then put a building out, boom, your turn is done. Now the next 2 actions are sort of the same. For one action, you can put out one of your tiles onto one of the misty, foggy spaces. For 2 actions, so your whole turn, you can put them onto a petrified forest space. Now you can see as you put these out, you'll reveal these different number values here. So as you put more out, you're going to get more points at the end of the game. So if I just put all 8 of these out, I would get 4 points at the end of the game. The size of these stacks is going to vary based on the number of players playing the game. So you can see there's kind of 2 types of mists. You've got here the petrified forest, and then your regular old run-of-the-mill mist. And so for a whole turn, I could cover up that petrified forest using up both of my actions, and then on a later turn, I might spend 1 to do 1 there, and then maybe another one, you know, down here for some reason. So I could do 2 on a turn, because these basic ones only take 1 action. Finally, the last 2 have to do with getting goods to a building and then actually fulfilling a contract and putting out one of your building markers. So for an action, I can take any good that I'm connected to via this sort of rail type of network, or these easygoing meadows, and then take that good and then put that on top of my color. So for 2 actions even, I could do 1, 2, and then 2 stone there if I really wanted to do that. The other action I'm going to do is actually replace what's here with a building. But to do that, I have to fulfill a contract. So I'm going to try to stack up here a variety of goods that are going to match possibly one of the contracts I have in my hand, or one of the publicly displayed contracts up here. You can see this one requires 1 of each to do. But this one over here is something that we could actually build. So you can see this one is Adventurers. It requires wheat and a brick, which you can see there. And I can build that, and when I do that, I'm going to take the card, I'm going to get this many points at the end of the game, and then I'm going to do some kind of cool special effect that's allowing me to manipulate the board, maybe take another action, and so on. So I'm going to do that and then put this out here, and then I'm going to get this sort of foundation here back. So I get this, and this comes back to my board. But you might say, okay, well, you had a wheat and a brick. These will be discarded back, but what do you do with this excess stone that wasn't required for that building? So any material that was not used in the construction of the building is going to go here, and if you look down there, you can see each of these is going to be worth -1 point at the end of the game. So you want to try to be as efficient as possible and just transport and use what you're actually going to need to build the building. So just as an example, let's say in the previous couple of turns I had wheat and then stone, but somebody had snagged it. So now I have that stone sitting there, and I realized, well, I could grab some brick here, and then I could take this, and then so you got 2 points, but yeah, you lost a point for that extra stone that you wanted to use for the other building. So it's very tricky. You've got to be very mindful of what's out here and what people are taking, and you might be left with some excess goods that you didn't really want. Now the person that triggers the end of the game is going to get this card here, and so they get an extra 2 points for ending the game. Everybody else gets a turn. Now this little marker here is, I believe, a promo item, so it may or may not be in your copy of the game. And so as these get bought up and built, new ones will come out, and a lot of the game is really based on these different special powers. And to just kind of be glib, this kind of reminds me of kind of Railways of the World, or maybe Ships, another Martin Wallace game, where you have this sort of combo-y kind of thing that you can do on top of the rest of your basic turn of trying to get goods out and be efficient in your networking and all that, and then you get this cool little twist of magic on top of it. But that's the game. You're going to get points for your contracts, for your good tokens that you've grabbed, for possibly ending the game, for revealing, again, the different stacks here, getting 2 points per revealed stack, and of course losing points for anything in the bad area. Well, that is Via Nebula, and I gotta say, I'm kind of taken with this game. Now, I'm a big fan of Age of Industry and Brass, and also Steam and all that kind of stuff too. So this really does feel and play like a really streamlined, kind of Disney-fied Steam or Age of Industry. You've got this sort of creation of these goods that everybody can use, everybody can ship them. You're going to get some points for doing so, so it's not the end of the world if everybody takes all the goods that you just generated on the board. And then you're building a network of these, sort of safe spaces. Now, one thing I didn't mention is when you add those green tiles, you have to add them adjacent to one of your buildings or to where there might already be some pre-existing, meadow tiles. So they're going to kind of grow organically. It feels very kind of magical as you do it as well. So you're going to be sort of piggybacking on top of other routes that people have been building. And so the timing of it becomes very important, where you're like, okay, I'm going to build a network from, this wheat right to my building, and I'm going to need that. And on my next turn, I'm going to ship the wheat. And you know what? what? Frankie ships all the wheat from out from underneath you. And, you know, I'm being a little bit extreme there. That's not quite going to happen, but you have to be very nervous, especially when you play it with 4 players, that you don't want to just kind of set up everybody else to use all of your hard work and then use it for their own advantage. And that does bring up player count. And I would say, I think this is absolutely best with 4 players, a full boat. It's fine with 3, and then with 2 players, it's a little bit kind of a zero-sum kind of thing, and you use these other different tiles and so on. You basically can only have your construction sites all to yourself, so that kind of changes it up a little bit there. But I like this with a full boat, and I also do like playing Steam and Brass, you know, with a much larger player count. There's just like a lot more going on. But I've been told that I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to multiplayer games that play 2. So again, take it with a grain of salt that, you know, this might be fine with 2 players. It's not horrible with 2 players. I'm actually borrowing this from a friend of mine. Him and his girlfriend have played this several times together, 2 players, and I think they're a little bit kind of done with it because they're kind of like an equal skill, and so you can kind of absorb the, you know, the layout of the game. So once both players played a few times, you're both kind of there, and then it's like, okay, well, I know what you're going to do, and you're going to do. So the sort of the layers and depth of kind of the interaction will more quickly dissipate with 2 players. But I think with 4 players, there's enough kind of, you know, fuzzy logic going on between all the heads at the table that it keeps itself interesting. But I quite like this game. I think it's perfect. It works well with the family. And my gamer group is kind of, you know, they like it enough kind of thing. And I really like it. I'm the one making the video, right? So that's the one that really matters, I guess. Anyways, so I would really recommend this game highly. I'm actually very surprised at how much I'm able to get into it because, yeah, it doesn't have like as much going on as Steam or Brass or anything, but there's still, you know, some interesting decisions. You're like, I don't want to quite work my way over there and be so obvious that I really need wheat, you know, for this card in my hand that's hidden. But maybe I'll just kind of trickle out this little meadow over here, or place, you know, one down on a petrified forest that's going to use up my whole turn, but I don't really have to commit to anything too drastic, and then I can kind of eat that up and maybe build 2 contracts on my next turn, or, you know, maybe a couple of turns down. So there is some definite, you know, thought process and planning that's going to happen with this game. And the production is fantastic, and I feel kind of silly saying this, but I look at it and I'm like, this is like a Days of Wonder production. I mean, it's that good. Then I go, wait a minute, Asmodee owns Days of Wonder. So I guess it's a Days of Wonder production, sort of. But yeah, but it has that level of quality and that the sort of vibrant, cartoony kind of artwork that I think will be attractive to, you know, I guess families and stuff that like the Days of Wonder style game. I really do enjoy the artwork and everything. So I think this is really a nice balance of a game, that kind of midweight Euro that has enough going on that it's going to keep somebody that's really kind of a seasoned economic train gamer type of person involved, but it's very easy to teach. Those 6 actions are just super simple. Your turns go boom, 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 and that's it. So it's basically like the action phase of Steam, but it kind of feels a little bit like Age of Industry or Brass for me, because just the way the goods kind of come out. But I guess at the end of the day, they all kind of meld in and, you know, grow and inform and talk to each other, all those different games. But anyway, this is a very high recommendation for me. I definitely would take a look at this. It's one of those I think can kind of fit like in most every household, you know, anywhere that, you know, you like playing board games, no matter what kind of game, probably. You know, I think a large percentage of people will enjoy playing this. Okay, thank you.